This is a demo of the Live SMS project. First, we'll take a quick look at the network diagram that describes the elements involved in the project. You can see here on the left, there's a member phone or handset. It communicates directly with an SMS provider, which is a third-party solution. That solution forwards the text messages onto the Live SMS web server, which stores the messages in the database. That web server also communicates directly with the user interface host server, which we'll see here in the demo. Next, we'll log into the user interface. Which will drop us off on the home screen of the Live SMS UI. You can see a number of things here. And the queue is for messages that have not yet been assigned to any agents. There's one message sitting there in this state that hasn't been handled. The next thing we can look at is there's currently a message, the conversation in progress. If we click on My Inbox, it'll show the conversation in progress. We can go over here to the handset and take a look. You can see if we click into the conversation, you'll see the messages, what is the routing number, and this agent Joe Smith response was responded through the interface. You can also see here that if a message has not been received from a handset for a specified amount of time, there is a sort of holder message that is sent back to indicate that the message was received by the system and a response will be sent shortly. Another thing we can see at this point is that this No Response tab has the same message in it. This is an indicator that you can see here that it's been some time since the message was sent. This is an indicator that the messages in the conversations in this tab have had no activity within a specified configurable amount of time. So what I will do at this point is go in as the agent and send a new message on this conversation. Let's say questions. So we'll go ahead and send that, which will pop up here on the handset, and then we can send a quick response that says yes. What are the hours? Which will show up in the tab here. Then we can look at this, which is the quick text facility. It's a number of items that can be defined in the interface here that have frequently asked questions, so you can respond quickly. Once we click on that, it'll add it to the box. Once it's in the box, it can be edited just like you were typing it. Freehand. So we can send that, which shows up on the handset. So then once this conversation is done, and you get a response here, we can come into this and do this end conversation button here, which allows you to put some information in about the state of the conversation when it was done, what the conversation questions were about, and whether or not the member was finished with that, had finished their string. Once this is submitted, you'll see that the My Inbox tab will go to 0 messages because that conversation is no longer active. The No Response tab similarly is at 0 messages because that conversation is not available anymore either. And the queue still has the original 1 message that hasn't been responded to. One thing we can go look at this point is at the completed calls list. This will show all the calls ever received by the system. And once the list comes up, we'll be able to go find that conversation and see the full history of all the calls that were sent back and forth for that conversation. So here is our conversation. You can see the date, time, how many total messages. When you get into it, you can go look at it just as it was when the conversation was actually in progress. So at this point, that conversation is considered complete, but of course a new conversation can begin any time with a new question. So we'll put one in the handset here. And at that point, that'll pop up on the Queue tab. Once it's arrived at the system, you'll notice that it's not in the My Inbox or the No Response tab, because at this point, this has not been associated with any agent. So if I come in here, I can select the mailing address, do an add quick text, get the mailing address in there, go ahead and send it out. At which point it'll show up on the handset, and then if we come back here to My Inbox, it should trigger it, the numbers to reload, and you'll see that that conversation is now assigned to Joe Smith agent. It is no longer in the queue. If we let it sit here without either wrapping it up or sending a follow-up question at any point, it will stay in the, it'll move into the No Response tab as well. One other thing we can do in the conversation when we're editing it is we can mark this for follow-up. This would be a situation where you need to get some information from another source to send it back to the member, and you need a reminder or a flag on that conversation that it needs to be handled in the future. So once we mark it for follow-up and go to the follow-up tab, there we go. So there's a message in the follow-up tab as well. So once it's in the follow-up tab, it is removed from the inbox because it's assumed that you'll be looking in this other tab for it. A couple other things to look at is the quick responses that we saw here in the drop-down when we're actually in the conversation. Those can be managed in the quick response tab. And it's a fairly standard interface. You can add a new one. You can edit an existing one. Just make your changes and save, and it'll get saved to the database. Similarly, the Agent Management tab allows you to add and edit existing agents. The admin flag, which can be set here, and you can see it's listed in the interface here, what that controls is that if your only admins will have the options to edit, manage quick responses, and manage agents. If the login is not flagged as an admin, the only things in this list will be home and completed completed calls. That concludes the demo. Thank you.